Mr. Dooley, if I could just have you say refund?
Is that
They do that for a fee. I tried to do it different every time, so they went like refund, 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 refund. Now I'm in the bed and I'm blaming the doctor. Refund. It's his fault. One to myself, one to him, one to heaven. But that's what I get called from trucks and cab drivers, Uber drivers, people passing by. That's my, here's looking at you, kid.
First, I'm going to start with I guess he would be the villain of this movie, Hart Bochner, who played Rod. Give it up for Hart Bochner. One of my favorite actors who played Cyril, and he was also in Chud. Please, everybody, welcome Daniel Stern. Living legend, Mr. Paul Dooley is here. Paul, come on up. And with the Roadmaster bike from the, we have more seats. Yeah, here we go. Here's Dennis Christopher with the Roadmaster bike right there from the movie. Still in the actors. Give it up one more time for the actors from Breaking Away, one of the all-time most fantastic movies.
Hey, that is not a Roadmaster bike. This is a Mozzie bike.
It's a Mozzie bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well,
Do we have a chair for the bike?
It looks better than we all do now.
the ravages of time. So thank you guys so much for coming out to the screening. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. The first time I ever went to Bloomington, Indiana, I asked a random person on the street to take me to the quarry hole, and my wife still brings it up as the stupidest thing I've ever done. It was November, and I still got in the water, which was a mistake. Because it doesn't look so much like that anymore. There was a lot of algae blooms and whatnot, and it was not a good idea. But it is my all-time favorite movie, and I had to get in just because this movie means so much to me. And I want to just let's go down the line and just tell us how you got involved with the film and like how it happened. Was like how was it working with Peter Yates and whatnot. So we can start with Hart. You want to go?
Well, I was in college. I had done one film prior to this called Islands in the Stream with George C. Scott, and I had taken some time off from school to do it. And I literally got hired the day after I graduated from college for this movie. I was 21, and Peter was great. I had a meeting with him, and he said, "You should play Rod," and that was that. So.
You look like a Rod. Like it's such perfect casting because it's like right when you show up, you inside you can't even help it, but you just go, "Fuck that dude." I still get that. Yeah. Thank you. Paul Dooley, fantastic job in this movie. Bravo.
I first got this job, I was 21.
I remember seeing you on screen and going, "Fuck that dude."
No, I had made 2 films only before this with Robert Altman, and of course the first one was with Dennis, who played my son in that movie also. It was called A Wedding. But I was so thrilled to get this. It happened rather oddly. I was doing my second film with Altman, And in the last 2 weeks of the shooting, the agent kept saying, they want you to read for this movie. And I said, well, I'm called every day. I had the lead in this movie. But somehow I was blowing off this audition because I had no idea it was a great movie. And several times they said, please try to get over there. But I was, in every scene or something. I was always around the scene. Finally, the day we wrapped, we were getting off early, something like 3 o'clock. I went to meet Tessage and Peter Yates, and they gave me a script, and about page 5, I said, this is my father, this is not going to be hard. And then they came out and said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have time to read you. Could you come this evening and do the table read with the whole cast, which means you don't just audition with 3 pages, but the whole thing, so it's a great opportunity. I said, I don't know, my rap party is tonight, and I'd like to go to it. They said, well, maybe you can come and go later, because we're starting at 7. So I said, okay, I'll come in after the reading. So there were probably 20 people in the room, mostly suits from the studio and hangers on, and the full cast, and I hadn't met any of them except Dennis. And I'm reading and reading, and I'm getting laughs, and after about 10 or 12 pages, I said, I'm going to get this job. And that's what happened. It was a dream come true because it's the best movie I ever made, and it's the best script I've ever made. And not all thanks to the actors, because as I tell many people, they say, why can't all your movies be a big success? I said, it depends on the script. The main thing is how good the script is. And of course, in this case, perfect casting, every single person. Jackie Earle Haley, I mean, who could improve on that character? So anyway, I'm very proud of it. And even though we don't see each other a lot in between time, I see Dennis more than most of them, somehow because it has a history and it's a cult following and it's always everywhere and being presented on television, it kind of brings us together in a kind of a way where we're not together, but through the film we feel more like a brotherhood, And this guy did the most with a part that only had a few scenes. When he sees Dennis Quaid bump into the stone wall, and you look at him, he's supposed to be pleased because he's winning the race, and he has this great look in his face of being sympathetic.
I just can't take direction.
May not have been conscious, but you did it a couple times at the end of the movie. You also looked kind of pleased for the winner. I thought it was a terrific idea. Anyway.
Dennis, how'd you get involved?
Well, I think Peter and Steve noticed me in a wedding because it was all sort of handled through the same agency. Bob's agent was, anyway, I think that's how it originally happened. And they wanted me to come in, anyway, they wanted me to come in for Cyril. And they sent me the sides.
Daniel, you're nodding your head like you'd never heard that before.
I did know that.
You didn't know that?
Oh, yeah. Thank God for that. Yeah, okay. And I went in, and there are all these sort of famous boys waiting in the waiting room to kind of go in and read. And
Do you remember any of them?
Richard Thomas was there. I think Robbie Benson was there.
All right. It's just good to know who you beat sometimes.
But I'm old and I've seen a lot of movies, so this might be a little foggy. But there were all these actors there that I had admired. And I mean, for me to get in, to get an audition, I had to fight for them. Kind of.
Yeah.
Those were the days. And I was never invited to come in and pre-read for a movie. Like, my agents were really impressed that they got the call that they wanted me to come in for this thing. But it was just an ensemble piece. There was no way of knowing which was the lead. The scenes were just the 4 boys, and there were two scenes. And I went in and I read for them very early in the morning, and I went in, and the guy that was supposed to read the part next time, I read Cyril. He was late, and they said, would you mind reading, that was going to read for Dave, they said, would you mind reading Dave's part too? And I said, okay. And I started having fun with the Italian part of it. They didn't know that I really am Italian. I had lived in Italy and I'd worked with Fellini, so I had all this kind of stuff inside. And I saw their face changing. And I had to come back the next day, and the next day they paired me with other Cyrils and other Daves, moochers and like that. So it was like that, and I didn't know. I was on another movie with Richard Harris. I was playing his son, and I was late. How did you rehearse down there before I got there?
Yes.
Yeah.
But just on my own. No, I don't. I think we did actually. I think you did.
I was a couple weeks
yeah,
too
yeah,
late.
yeah.
I was a couple weeks late getting
You were
there because I
doing
couldn't get off
costumes
this
or
other movie. I couldn't get off this other movie. So when they finally had me go down there, they had this whole other idea of what the character was going to be. And they had me in pointed-toed boots. And I looked like somebody that should have been in Saturday Night Fever, man-on shirt, unbuttoned down to here, and real tight pants. And I looked like I was a greaser trying to pick up chicks. And it didn't work. I mean, my hair was like dark brown and all slicked back. It was really, really
They had to reshoot
bad.
they reshot the beginning.
Thank God the very first scene that I ever did in the movie was with her with the lighter. And we shot it in this other reality with this character looking completely different. You know when Lily Tomlin used to do drag and appears a man with hair?
Yeah.
That's what I looked like. It was really, really bad. We shot a whole day like that, me at the table with her, because we had to go back and shoot me rushing in to help the friends now that we figured out the other thing. And I went back to my hotel. We shot the whole day. I had gotten in on the red eye. I had no rehearsal time with anybody. They put me in this outfit and did this stuff to me with makeup and hair and threw me in there, and I tried to get through it, and I did it. I went back to the hotel room and I cried the whole night through. And I called my agent and I said, I can't do this. I don't know why the fuck they hired me, what happened. This isn't at all what I'm thinking that this is.
Yeah.
And the next day, I got out of the car, and Peter was across the field coming towards me, and I was coming. It was like that old commercial. I ran towards him, and he was walking quickly towards me, and I hugged him. It was kind of like our scene, and I burst into tears, and he said, "You got to go back to the hotel room and get some sleep." And I said, "I can't do this. I can't do this part. I can't do it." I just kept saying, "I can't do it." Went back to the hotel. They came back at the end of the day. They shut down the shooting for that day. And they said, "So what's going on?" And I said, "I'm not a greaseball. I'm not trying to pick up girls. I want, it says in the script, I want a bigger family. This is the romantic side of this guy. I don't like these clothes, and I don't like this look, and it's just too..." And they said, "Well, how are you going to transform when you tell her who you really are?" And I said, and a testament to Robin Douglas, the whole scene in the gazebo is completely improvised.
Wow.
Completely improvised, and they watched it and they went, shit, right down to the slap. And Steve ran it down and they said, "Can you do that again?" She was so focused, and I think she's an unsung hero in this movie.
She's incredible, yeah.
Because she does meticulous work.
Yeah.
You can see the thoughts passing through Robin Douglas's eyes. You can see her change to anger. You can see the regret. That scene is just gorgeous, and she's the reason why. And the same thing, Barbara's passport scene was an improvised scene.
No way.
Barbara came with that idea. There was never a scene in the movie.
I still do it when I have my passport. When I have to take my passport, I hold it like it's an incredible scene. That's insane. Wow.
So anyway, I went in. They said, "What are you thinking?" And I'm thinking, I want I want to have curly blonde hair, and like I want to look like those cherubs on the top of the Sistine Chapel. It's that kind of Italian. It's not slicked back and weird. Everything. And he's open. He's just happy. He's, you know, and they kind of got it. And they sent somebody back to California. They packed up all the clothes that you see in the movie are my clothes except for the racing clothes. And we reshot that scene in the student union when they have the fight. And they were really happy.
That's incredible.
So
I think this is the key to the movie because Dennis realized that he shouldn't appear to be so slick as an Italian that he really fooled even the audience. He should look like I'm trying really hard to be an Italian and actually not being very good at it. He even really does it tentatively, as if he doesn't quite know what he's doing. But I think that's the secret.
well, that also was the first day of work, was trying the accent with a girl and thinking, does this sound like shit, or what is this? You know?
No, it sounded not perfect.
And I also said to Peter, I said, these guys would have beat me up. They would never have been my friends. I mean, all you have to do is put a Halloween trick-or-treat bag on my arm and I'm ready to do the next scene the way they had conceived the character before. You know, so it was a big shift in the movie, and that's how I got the part, and that's how I did.
You improved the part. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you got the place.
Me too.
Me too.
It's a huge, that's an amazing role. You do an amazing job of being I felt so in tune with Cyril when I saw this movie because I was taller than all my friends. I was constantly cracking jokes, and I, like, the scene in the beginning where you, like, realize where you lost all, and I'm like,
Meaning of life.
meaning of life, I go, that's me on the screen there.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that was, I mean, I was you, because that was, I mean, the way I got in, I'd never done a movie, I'd never had an audition for a movie. And that was the kind of amazing thing, is I'm hearing the stories here, and Paul's too, is that I had never, I was in a couple plays in New York. I was 20, and actually my girlfriend, who's still my wife, 40-something years now, we had just been evicted from our apartment, sold all her furniture, wormed our way into another apartment, put the deposit in the first month down, and had no prospects whatsoever. And I got my very first movie audition, maybe my second, but so I went in to meet with the audition, and I didn't have a script or anything. I went in and met with Peter, who was talking on the telephone in this office, wherever that was. I waited, I sat in my chair. I don't know what I looked like, but I looked like that. And I was as innocent as that too, because I had no idea. So I sat with Peter, he talked on the phone, talked on the phone. I'm waiting, like, what's gonna happen? I've done this. He puts the phone down, he says, okay, so I want you to come back in 2 days or something, and here's the address, and we'll see you there. And I said, here's the script. So he gave me the script. And sure enough, I went to ICM a few days later, top of a building, I mean, in Manhattan, and went into a conference room, and there was everybody sitting around the table. And the first thing I saw was the buffet, which was, because they put out a smorgasbord, and I started filling my pockets because so we sit down, we read the whole script, and you know, I just read my lines. I got a few laughs along the way. And then the thing ends and everybody starts mingling, and I didn't know what I looked like Cyril at the end of the thing, like everybody's talking to me, and I'm like, I don't know where to go.
I wanted to bring that up. Is that in the script that like the movie ends in the most sad way for Cyril?
No, that's Peter's sensibility coming through. But it was that, and when I wandered away, Peter said, "Okay, fantastic. We'll see you in Los Angeles." And I was stunned. I walked down the building. My wife and I still talk about it. I put a dime in the phone and I said, he said, "I'll see you in Los Angeles." What does that mean? What do you think that means? I think I have it. I think I got the job. It couldn't be. He didn't say I got the job. He only said, "See you." You know, it was like trying to do that. I'd never been on a plane. I'd never done anything. I got on a plane. I mean, I had an attack of panic because I remember balled up on the bed with my wife going, what the hell is happening? You know, and because I had to get on a plane, which was scary. I flew out to LA and I just staggered through the whole thing and never been in a movie or anything. And oddly, my two best buddies from high school, I dropped out of high school. I really was that kid in a lot of ways. I dropped out of high school and moved to New York to be an actor. And that summer, that was like the first day of shooting for me was with the bowling ball, and we're fighting in that thing, and I'm like, how the hell? This looks fake. I don't know what I'm doing. But my two best friends from high school were doing a cross-country bike trip. And they showed up like the second day of shooting. They're on a bike trip. I'm doing a movie. I'm waving, you know, we say, well, I don't know what this is. What are you doing here? And they drove off and went to wherever they were going. The whole thing was a magical, I mean, truly, that's one reason I'm here tonight. It's the most magical thing that ever happened to me. Peter just taking me, plucking me out of that life and putting me into this life. And from there I got more jobs, we could pay our rent, we had a family. Peter in Virginia had our wedding party for us. I mean, became dear friends, opened up. And I watched the movie and I go, well, holy shit, man, that was like 2 days in of your new life, and I got to watch my little home movie of how I started my life. So that it really truly was just and has been just a magical thing. And I'm surprised that Peter's sensibility as a director. I've directed, and you audition people, and you call them back, and you know his instincts for Paul, for me. I mean, to just say, yeah, you're the right guy. I'll give it a try. I'll give you a try where you do the whole thing. I don't want to just see 3 seconds of it. And for Peter's artistry, and it carried through the shooting too, because he was the most dignified, wonderful, classy guy, and yet he would do anything silly to get the performance. He made you feel safe. He made you feel wonderful. There's a scene when Mooch punches the thing, and we all drive away, and we cheer. And I'll never forget that day because Peter, we weren't cheering enough, or we weren't doing it right. And then Peter said, all right, one more take, and we all are looking this way. And when we turn around, Peter has taken off his hat and he spills a cup of water on his head. And we all go, he wanted us to laugh, and we were like, what the hell was that, Peter? But he was trying, he was so sweet, and him and Steve really, that's what this movie's about, is Steve Tessich's writing, his love of culture and other cultures, and his immigrant story that he was telling, and Peter's deft touch with how to tell that story.
The humanity.
Something, it took a British director, and a guy who was born in Yugoslavia, or perhaps Serbia, came here when he might have been 10 or something, to see an American family in a clearer way than most writers had done that in the past. That somehow he had the fresh eyes for how to put together American family and tell the story. So that's very rich, I think.
It was originally, everybody know, it was originally 2 scripts. It was
Bambino, it was called.
It was
Bambino.
Bambino.
What do you mean 2 scripts?
It was 2 scripts that Peter had shepherded with Steve. Had written 2 scripts. One about a kid who lives at home with his parents, being in a talophile. Is that the right word?
Sure.
Sure. And the other one was about these townies and a bike riding story. And it was Peter's idea to combine them. Isn't that right?
Really?
There was also a version where Dave picked up the bike that he rode on was a folding bike. Because at one point he gets in a van with hippies and is smoking grass with the hippies and the van. Practicing on a folding bike, yeah.
By the way, these 2 stories by Tessich had been with every studio, picked up and kept and left on the shelf and not made, finally released. And that's after 7 years, Peter told me. He said, I think we have 2 movies here. One is 4 Friends and one is the bike movie. And later, after Breaking Away, a film came out called 4 Friends, I believe, and another one that played the other basic script. but they had amalgamated it into Breaking Away. But they followed it up with kind of versions of those two things. Here's a bit of trivia. I've known this guy ever since all that time, and we're pretty close. We see each other quite a bit. And the other day we had a breakfast. It was about a month ago, and he tells me things I didn't know about. We came back after breakfast and sat in my car for 3 hours, and he told me things that were new to me about this movie. And he said that Charles Durning, whom I consider the premier character actor of movies, turned it down not too long before I did it. And it was also I found very early, Art Carney also turned it down.
Robert Preston turned it down. Robert Preston.
Really?
And Eva Marie Saint.
Oh, I didn't know that. I learn new things every day. I'm just lucky.
Saint turned down the mother, Barbara's part.
Another part of the day.
I was so thrilled that Jackie Earle Haley was in this movie because I went, Jackie Earle Haley?
He was the star.
He was the star.
He was the star.
Yeah,
when we were shooting the movie, Bad News Bears, when we would walk around town, Jackie was the star. I mean, obviously, I'd never been in anything. Dennis had been in one thing. Quaid had been in a couple things. But yeah, Jackie was that was the first time I'd seen what a movie star looks like with all the, college kids flocking over to Jackie and just kind of seeing what that culture was.
Yeah.
And Jackie was handled it so beautifully. I mean,
He was a pro by then.
Totally.
He was a real pro.
And that was sort of his step up into being an adult teenager. He was getting married because he'd been the kid a lot of times. So that was his.
The sad thing was that he had a dry spell for quite a few years. He's a little bit hard to cast in a way because he's short, but he tacks tough. I think of him as a young Jimmy Cagney almost. But he had a long term when he wasn't getting any acting work, and then he came out with a movie where he got a lot of press. It was about a child molester, and then he became another kind of a star.
He was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. And he was in that Lincoln picture playing one of those senators, and done a lot of good work since. And he even played, I think, Freddie Fingers or something.
Freddy Krueger,
Yeah, something like that.
Freddy Fingers is a better name. 1, 2, Freddy's thinking for you.
Anyway, he's doing really well. I'm very proud of him.
When you guys were shooting at like Bloomington, it was the summer, I'm assuming, but what was the reception like to the locals? Like, what would you do would you hang out like after you would be done with the shooting day? Because you were all young guys in basically a party town.
It wasn't a party town.
No,
it was a very small college. I mean, it didn't. Well, maybe I was innocent. I didn't know where any. But there was no bar. I mean, it wasn't like a bar scene or a frat.
No, we hung out at the motel.
At the motel, yeah. We were diving for pennies in the swimming pool. Like, I'd throw them in and Hart would get them, and then he'd throw them in and I would get them. And
that's what I meant by partying.
That was our per diem, actually.
I had never been so busy in my life because there were opera lessons, there was training lessons.
Yeah, I want to know about that. Like, were you a bike rider before
No, not
this?
at all.
We trained together.
I got to live my life in sports that I should have done in school in the movies. I was a surfer in one movie, I was an Olympian in another movie, and now this. But no, I was not athletic at all.
So on top of like having to
On
prepare.
location, the truth is that actors really don't mingle with townspeople all that much because you work hard all day. Sometimes it's 12-hour days, and by the time you had a meal, you're kind of,
Then there's the
really don't want to
fraternity
go out and
suits.
have a good time. That's not true. I worked with Robin Williams, and after he was finished shooting, he would go out on the town. This was during Popeye. He always wanted to mingle as much as he could with everybody.
Yeah.
But the college was very. I noticed at the end of the movie, like the college got a very good credit.
Yeah.
It was shot there, and I think it meant a lot to the school. So they were very supportive. And then we came back. We did the movie, and it was a tiny. I think it was a tiny sort of movie that had, but it was the little engine that could. It caught fire. It had lines around the block, but but no one expected that. So the premiere of the movie, they flew us back to Bloomington, and they put on, again, this is my first movie, so but they did a Hollywood premiere. So they had cars with a parade with us in the town, and they had the Little 500, and we were like guests at the Little 500. They actually have the Mini 500, which was one of the most insulting things I've ever seen. It was the women's race. They do it on tricycles in the gym. The women can't ride a real bike, they have to ride a tricycle. I don't know if they still do that, but we went back, but we had like like a Hollywood premiere with the Klieg lights, and I mean, it was. So I think it meant a lot to the college more than the town.
But the reviews, I don't know if you remember the local reviews, especially the college, it was a student union paper. And they said, outside of Bloomington, no one's going to see this movie.
Remember that? I do not, but
Trust me.
you got it. You got it.
You didn't check the university paper for the reviews of the movie? When you were shooting it, like it does have it's very tight. Like Paul said, it's a very good script, and but it does feel loose and fun. And you mentioned 2 scenes that were improvised that seemed like they were completely they were emotionally perfect for the movie. Did it feel loose while you were shooting the movie? Was there room to play? Was it kind of?
What impressed me is there was never really any blocking. You were allowed to go in and just sort of mount the scene and whatever. You go, oh, we're doing it here today. And there was never no one ever told you to go over there or hit this mark or do this, so that it was always very fluid. Somehow we always made it so that we were all in the shot properly. But I remember feeling very physically free and not having to be restricted, from the way we walked across the street to everything that we did.
I didn't improvise anything. I mean, in terms of improv, that was true. He was very natural. Peter was very naturalistic.
The song. That was you joining in.
Oh, I joined in. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like so much fun.
Yeah, well, that whole thing was an improv. Come on, nobody.
Did we practice the song?
Well, do you remember the first night we tried to do it, and Peter got me so drunk, and we sat in my trailer drinking and drinking.
I didn't.
I blacked out on that.
Peter kept bringing us alcohol to loosen us up.
I don't think us.
No. Well, we had to shoot the second night.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Don't you
I do, now that you're saying it, and I was also remembering that first night of shooting, after that first day, your emotional, that transformation that you had to make from that first day of shooting and your uncomfortableness and that sort of tragedy in the hotel room, of like, I can't do this.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I remember, I've forgotten about that too. So much I forgot.
We used to talk a lot.
We
about
did, yeah.
Everything, because I knew about the eviction.
Yeah, well, and Lauren had come to visit.
Is she here tonight?
Yes.
Hi.
I'll tell you all a piece of trivia. The quarry itself was called the Empire Quarry, and the stone from that built the Empire State Building, which is limestone. Yeah,
And
That's why they called it the Empire
quarry.
And when we got there, the whole quarry was covered with graffiti and fetid with trash and everything else. There's a scene where I'm riding the bike and I'm singing on the bike, and the townspeople are there, and a lady comes out and shakes her rug. That was our production designer, Patricia Von Brandestein, who's gone on to win many, many Oscars for Amadeus and pictures that aren't in a little town.
An interesting sidelight is one of the jobs of an art director. They're varied, but she went out there. I didn't see it, but I was told she went out there with other people in a boat and erased all the graffiti, which was the first 8 feet. She wanted it to look pristine, as if the college guys had never come there or anybody, and ruined it. So it should look like it's very virginal. But that was one of the jobs.
She had sandblasted the whole thing. Actually, she didn't go out on a boat and do it.
That's right.
They had big machinery coming in there, sandblasting all of the quarry, and they made it look pristine and brought the quality of that water back to what Peter wanted for the cinematography, for the way that it looks. Because even though this looks like a little movie in a little town with normal people in it, every shot, if you look at it, I noticed it tonight because this is such a fine presentation here, are really exquisite. The scene with Jack and I just talking about he's going to try to tell me that he's getting married, and then we go around the corner and we're in the church window. There's a big cathedral there. The acres of cornfield as the bike goes by. There's so much visual, real beauty. Every time.
Also, Peter, you know, it's
and there's a
very
picture of Barbara Barry. She's just luminous.
It's a very lyrical film that way.
Yeah.
It really, and I thought that at the end, when I watched the end, that last 2 laps, there's no cuts.
No.
That last 2 laps of that race, they say it's 2 laps left, and there's no cutting. I mean, where you would be cutting device and close-ups and looking back, and you two, you know, fighting and all that. Just one thing, and even now I'm starting to lift myself out of the seat, going, "Is he going to do it?" And the tension is beautiful, and he made everything kind of.
Cynthia Scheider was the editor on this, and she should have gotten more credit for it, I think, because she did. She was married to Roy Scheider, and she did a great job with this, just absolutely amazing, because she builds the tension. She knows when to keep it a long shot, and she knows when to get the reactions of us looking back and forth to get the joke that's not even written.
Great, there was great comment editing in this too.
She had some laughs just with her editing in there, and that to me is fantastic.
And in terms of cinematography, there was one shot in the big end of the race where it looks like it's a 360 shot with the camera, and they're coming up a big hill, which is circular finally. It's one of the most beautiful shots in the whole movie. And you see every bike coming up that hill in a big circle.
It's Matt Leonetti.
Yeah.
It's just really, an Italian, really, really beautiful. If you really look at it, each frame it either gets to a beautiful image, or it starts out with it, or it moves through a beautiful image. It's all really, really lovely. He took real good care with Barbara, and he took real good care with Robin Douglas too, because every time you see them, they're just idealistic. They're icons. There was an actress that I was seeing named Laurie Bird, and she was in Two Lane Blacktop, and I introduced her to Peter because they were in Los Angeles preparing the stuff, and it was the most I saw of them was before the movie, before we got to the set. And I introduced him to Laurie, and she went in to read for Robin, and I said, because I thought we had good chemistry, I thought it was a good thing. And he said, "No, you look like a perfect couple. You look like a couple that would get married or would be together." He said, "I wanted the girl on Bob Barker's show that when they open the curtain, she's at the refrigerator going like that. He wants a grass-fed, all-American beauty, a Kathy Ireland, younger kind of thing. He wanted the ideal. He said, I want you to fall in love with a woman that you would never be with. That you're just longing for." And that would, so when he said that, I went, oh, yes.
Yeah.
I get it.
And she was a Chicago actress, and I think she remained in Chicago. She made a few other movies. One Dresses a Man for some reason.
Oh, speaking of that, my double, which should be, not Dresses a Man, but
He does dress as a man.
the guy the person that was my double, and I think you can maybe tell from some of the long shots when you compare our legs. Now, I did a lot of stuff. I picked up that goddamn book right off the street in one take.
That was impressive. That's a good reach there.
That's a long take, and there was no cuts on it. And they had like wires to pull it up and all this shit, and I said, and it failed like 400 times. I said, let me just try it. And it kind of worked.
I did all my own bike riding in that last thing too.
I wanted to ask you, was it scary? Because when we first started those laps at the end, when they first brought us, they had the most crowds and the most everything that dwindled during the day. And they just threw us in with everybody to start riding as fast as we could, without anybody going anywhere, just so they could get footage of us going.
With a motorcycle in front of us riding back, and with the cameraman riding backwards. So, yeah,
but
that
it was
terrible.
really scary and really dangerous. It was like the second or third day when we realized, we have to match shots. There are people in first place, because they were like extras that were trained in bike racing, so they all wanted to win. Nobody was directing.
Yeah, I remember Peter didn't really talk terribly much about what we were going to be doing during the race. It was all about the cameras, and I thought, well, aren't we going to talk about what we're supposed to do? Get on the bike and ride? I didn't know how many laps I was supposed to do.
3 months later, they sent me back to Bloomington with the cameraman that was on the back of the motorcycle to pick up super close-ups. Because when we were shooting it, I said, you don't have anything where he makes a decision. You just have, me going around and stuff. I mean, you have to tell me when the things are so I can make decisions and switch the gears, so to speak, on the scene. And we never had any of those really tight things. And we went back 3 months later after Cynthia, and I mentioned it while we were there, and I felt embarrassed because it was like, I'm asking for more close-ups. Goddamn scene in the movie, I'm asking for more close-ups. But we went back, and sometimes there's like 4 bike wheels in back of us, but they're really close, so you never see any of the crowd or any of the people.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but I was watching myself riding that bike, and I saw you had a stunt guy, but like, I'm way on the outside. When I'm going around, it's like I'm slowing down and just because in that crowd, it was like loose gravel too. It was like some sort of loose track thing. I mean, you did serious riding in that. You had a lot to do. You had to look at what you were doing.
We trained. We had a trainer here in LA before we got on the plane.
Oh,
a trainer?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. We did. We used to ride to Lake Hollywood. You don't
Oh,
remember?
no, well, yeah.
I think we're going to open up the questions
I
for
remember
questions.
we did one of those things because I was on that other movie and they kept bringing things like
Other people ask
the
that
roller.
question.
So, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, we got one right up here.
I just want a quick one, Mr. Dooley, if I could just have you say refund.
He's
Why
asking
would
Paul.
they do that for a fee? I tried to do it different every time, so they went like refund, 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 refund. Now I'm in the bed and I'm blaming the doctor. Refund. It's his fault. One to myself, one to him, one to heaven. But that's what I get called from trucks and cab drivers, Uber drivers, people passing by. That's my, here's looking at you, kid.
I see one back there, red shirt. Yes.
Yes, this is one of the most brilliant American films I think that's ever been made, and I think.
Thank you so much.
The one person that didn't get mentioned was Dennis Quaid, who obviously became a breakout sex symbol after this film.
So that's enough. God damn it.
Everyone did, of course, but he was very visible. I like the way he's undercut very subtly throughout this film, though, as being the moral man, and then he hits his head in the quarry, and at the end, he's obviously having a lot of problems with the bike ride, more so than the other guys, in fact, it seems. Are those deliberate choices you think the director made about this kind of character? The macho American
I do. I mean,
cowboy type?
some of Steve's best writing, I think, is in Dennis's character and in your character.
Yeah.
I think they're Steve Tessich gems that just come out of people's mouths. Because him expressing that disappointment, that lack of belief in himself, everything about that character and the way Dennis played it was absolutely perfect. And that's how this movie works, so magically.
And also, Dennis even though Jackie in some ways was the most noticeable or recognizable, Dennis was a movie star already. I mean, he carried himself in a way. He has, but at the time, had so much charisma. And just, he's the leader of the group, actually. When you watch the dynamic, we keep following him. He tells us where to go. Dave's the star of the story, but he's the second banana in our group to Mike. And Dennis, Dennis was living large. I mean, he knew how to be in the movies. I think he went down, he went down and bought a car. He bought a like a
54
took his
Chevy.
and bought
PJ bought
a
a car.
fancy car.
Yeah.
But I mean, he knew like, and we were all like, what the heck? Like I'm saving every penny, and he was.
We went
he
to
was already-
Martinsville, Indiana one Sunday. All of
yeah.
us. I bought a 54 Chevy.
Yeah.
You-
And
you-
PJ
I bought one and he bought one, and I drove it back to LA. Yeah.
Right. Everybody was, and so Dennis really, I mean, again, he was the center of it, of the story, and a lot of the inner story, and he's gone on. I mean, he should
And
have
at the
been.
time, he was married to a famous actress. I mean, he arrived on the set. Dennis and I had done a movie before together called September 30th, 1955. So we knew each other kind of well. But Dennis arrived with his wife, PJ Souls, that for at least actors, she was a movie star. She was the girl in Carrie. She was in so many movies, and it was like Dennis Quaid was married to her, right? So, yeah. So they arrived there, and they were pretty dazzling and looking the way they look. PJ does a little cameo in the movie. She's Susie. We had a proper scene in the flower store when I buy flowers for Passover.
You know, I see these guys off and on, some of them infrequently, but I almost never have seen Dennis Quaid since the movie, except when we all had a magazine shoot at Entertainment Tonight. But about 3 weeks ago, I got a job on a sitcom, and Dennis Quaid now has a sitcom. It's called Merry Happy Whatever. And the whole first season is supposed to be between Christmas and New Year. And boy, was he glad to see me. I mean, we had more fun together just on the 4 days of the shoot than we ever did making the movie, because he's busy being the other character. But I loved seeing him, and he was just great to me, and he was at the, in fact, he embarrassed me with how terrific he was. It's usually it's true at the end of an actor's job in a movie, whether it's halfway through the movie or at the end. When you have no more scenes to do and you're released, the director will say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Dooley," and then the crew, it's just obligatory, they all applaud. But Dennis did this 4 times a day when I was working with him. I'm so glad to see him. And
He was trying to get you off the show.
It really filled my heart with joy. About 4 days of work.
Any other, we have one over here?
Hi, I'm from Bloomington and went to IU, so this film is really meaningful to me. I just wanted to say that at first. Also say that the car y'all are driving around in was a friend of the family's car that she sold to the production crew. So it's funny seeing that. And then so my question is, like now I'm a film student and I want to know, as actors, what you would suggest to budding directors of how to direct effectively.
I mean, a bunch of you have directed your own movies.
The good thing at this point in time is, you can make your own movie. That's what's good in the technology now, is people can make their own movies at home. Digital, you can shoot it on your phone. So I would say keep shooting and keep doing things and find your own voice, because that's how you end up. I mean, that's what everybody's looking for in a director, is somebody who's clear what they want and can guide the ship of all these disparate parts of the movie and form it into one thing. That's what was so brilliant about Peter. He really was the conductor of everything, of the actors and the script and the art direction and everything. So I would just keep shooting. That's the beauty. I was realizing, like, when we did this, it was one camera all the time. Like now it's 3 cameras and you're getting a lot of footage. That was one camera each time. Each shot was precious and you had to reload the cameras and stuff. So, but the freedom to keep shooting, I think, gives young budding directors a lot of opportunity.
Bob Altman famously said that direction is 80% casting, and then he just lets people go. He believes in his choices when he makes them, when he feels them and he connects with a human being in the room. He never doubts. He never goes back from that.
He hates to audition people.
Yeah. It mostly comes from life, at least my experiences with him being in his film.
When I got my first job with him, I came to his apartment, in New York, and it was called The Wedding. And he spent 2 hours with me explaining what the movie was, but he never asked me to audition. So I come back tomorrow for lunch. I come back, there's a lot of people there, and tells me more about the movie. And after 3 days, I go in and he says, "Oh, we found your daughter." And I said, "What daughter?" "Well, you're playing the father." But I didn't know. He's like that. He doesn't like to audition people.
We got time for one more question from the audience. Right here. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so this line that gets me every time is when you say, "You're not a cutter, I'm a cutter." It just seems like to sum up the whole movie, or really important.
Absolutely.
But it just kind of goes by. What was the direction?
There was no direction. That's one of the best lines in the movie, because to him, a cutter is an insult when they call him that. But to me, I think of myself in the mill, making stones into something. What they were really doing in that mill was making columns to be used in courthouses all over the country. But the guy who was the most experienced and the oldest guy making these things is called the master sculptor. So they think of themselves as sculptors. Years ago, they started with a hammer and a chisel. Now they have electric chisels. But he was called the master sculptor. So when he says he doesn't mind being a cutter, it's a negative word. It's an insult word. And I say, "You're not a cutter, I'm a cutter," meaning it's a great profession. So that's why that's such a great line.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Please give it up for Hart Bochner, Paul Dooley, Dennis Christopher, Daniel Stir, and you all. We're going to take a picture to leave. But thank you guys so much for coming.
Major photo here.
Mr. Stern, after the photo, can I get on?
I was shooting a TV show, and the crew loved the movie, and they made it the whole crew came out in cutters. And I kept it. When else am I gonna wear it? She had one.
If everyone can look over here, I've got some
Show your shirt. I'm showing.
Okay, let's go close. Look at Mario back here.
Okay. And then also this next lady right here.
All right.
Yeah.
So,